I don't have anything for me. Ready? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I hope everyone's having a beautiful and blessed and wonderful morning. Um, we are currently in part 5, and we are in section 2 of chapter 3 that I didn't get to do last week. We are doing the 4 Pillars of Leadership by John Maxwell. And I just make sure I say this every time we start. If you want to follow along, you can definitely buy the book. You can see what I'm reading, just so you kind of get what I'm talking about. And then, we're just going through this stuff. Last week we talked about 4 points of how to encourage others. And I'll relist these 4 points real quick. And the first one was most people don't have faith in themselves. The second point was most people don't have someone who has faith in them. The third was most people can tell when someone else has faith in them. And the fourth point we mentioned last week was most people will do anything to live up to their faith in them. And now this week we go into the same section, and he sections it off, and he goes how to become a believer in people. So it's no longer about just the faith. Now we're going to become believers, right, in others. So when it comes to believing, we try to build faith in others, we have to try to use the certain suggestions, and he creates this suggestions that he has built up in the book with the initial letters of the word believe, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So like when we go through each little section that he talks about right here, you'll see that each section starts with the letters of the words believe. And in the first section, he calls it believe in them before they succeed. So B. Believe in them before they succeed. Everybody loves a winner. It's easy to have faith in people who have already proved themselves. It's much tougher to believe in people before they have proved themselves, though. But that is the key to motivating people to reach their potential. You have to believe in them first before they become successful, and sometimes before you can persuade them to believe in themselves. Some people in your life desperately want to believe in themselves but have very little hope. And as you interact with people, he has a certain phrase from the motto of the French World War I hero Marshal Ferdinand Foch. There are no hopeless situations. There are only men and women who have grown hopeless about them. Every person has a seed of greatness, even though they may be currently dormant. But when you believe in people, you water the seeds and give them the chance to grow. E. Emphasize their strengths. Many people mistakenly think that to build relationships and be influential, they have to be an authority and point out others' deficiencies. Do you ever notice that sometimes in relationships or in leadership positions, people who end up having influence or authority you make a point, right? They're like, well, hey, since you're my employee, I'm going to make a point that I'm in charge of you. Do this, or they do that, or they do certain things that kind of put you down, right? Because they have this authority and whatnot, But that's not how you should approach things. People try that approach become like Lucy from the comic strip Peanuts by Charles Schulz. In one strip, you'll see Lucy told poor Charlie Brown, "You're in the shadow of your own goalposts. You are miscue. You are 3 putts on the 18th green. You are a 7-10 split in the 10th frame. You are a missed free throw, a shanked 9 iron, and a called third strike. Do you understand? Have I made myself clear?" That's hardly a way to positively impact the life of another person. I love that he uses Charlie Brown because for a lot of people that's the childhood they grew up on, or that's it's a kid's cartoon. But sometimes you have to realize in some of these cartoons and shows and stuff, there are a lot of interesting points they try to teach kids early on, just like, hey, this is not how you should treat people. And I love that. But there are also a lot of shows out there that don't do a good job of doing that, and they're really stupid. And I would not recommend you show their kids any of these shows. But there are shows that do that, right? Everything that you watch on TV or anything that you read or listen to or whatever it might be, there's always some kind of intention behind it, right? There's always something you're learning from these things in the world, correct? There's always a lesson to be learned sometimes. But when it comes to emphasizing someone's strength, if you're putting them down, you're not emphasizing anything. You're just building roadblocks in their life when you put them down like this. The road to building positive relationships lies in exactly the opposite direction. The best way to show people your faith in them and to motivate them is to focus your attention on their strengths. It's always good to look for, it's always good to look for the strengths of people. Bruce Barton, an author, says, "Nothing splendid has ever been achieved except by those who dare believe that something inside them was superior to circumstances." So by emphasizing people's strengths, you're helping them believe that they possess what they need to succeed. And he has an air quotes here, which I really love. Believing in people before they have proved themselves is the key to motivating people to reach their potential. Believing in people before they have proved themselves will help motivate them to reach that potential. Praise them well, privately and publicly, right? Some people, and I've seen this happen, some people, just to make a power move or to like put that authority or emphasis on their own strengths, they will compliment people, right? In public all the time. I just realized it's been in my ear the whole time. They will compliment people in public only, but in private, they will discourage them. Because like, hey, you might have done this. Like they're like, hey, everyone, he's doing such a good job, blah, blah, blah. Congratulations to him, this and, like just giving him praise. But in private, hey, I'm just trying to make you look good in front of people, but to be honest, you're not really doing that great of a job. You need to improve, blah, blah, blah. And that's horrible. But bosses do that. Some bosses will do that. They will show public statement in front of others because the majority of people think that they're a good employee or whatever, but the boss just doesn't like them or the leader just doesn't like that person. So like in private, they might put them down and you're not helping them build their strengths at all. Eventually, you just kind of put them down and their qualities mean nothing. So appreciate them in private, but also appreciate them in public. You need to be able to do both. And when you're able to do both, it will help in every instance to prove that they have good qualities, skills, and that they will continue to improve because you are showing them their strengths. You are complimenting them from mistakes. You're showing them you believe in them. List their past successes. Even when you emphasize people's strengths, they may need further encouragement to show them you believe in them and get them motivated, right? He mentions an entrepreneur, Mary Kay Ash, who's the founder of a cosmetics brand, advised that everyone has an invisible sign hanging from their neck saying, "Make me feel important." A lot of people, they just want to feel like they're a part of something. That's why you see a lot of cliques in high school and college, and you may not believe it sometimes, but in adulthood as well, people build friendships and they build cliques. They have groups. They don't know how to invite people into their groups. They don't know how to make new friends because they have the set groups that they're with. They have the set friends they've known for a long time, right? Some people have friends in high school and that was their clique, and that clique goes out of high school and they stay friends as adults for a long time, but no one's really invited into that group unless they get married or have kids or something, right? And then their kids and their spouse are just involved in the friend group now. But even in that instance, that friend group's really not as closed off. If they're able to allow, right, and let the families of their friends be a part of their friend group and be a part of their stuff that they want to do and they get together. And you see this stuff online. People post about it, right? They have a bunch of friends and their wives and their children. They all gather for huge events or hang out, and that's awesome. And they're able to establish more people in their group. They allow more into that, and I think that's beautiful. But some people they want to feel important. And then because you don't want to make them feel important, you don't want to believe in them, they just tend not to believe in themselves. But one way you can make people believe in themselves or show you believe in them is to list some of their past successes, right? Sometimes people might feel down, or you got friends that just aren't having a good time, or life is just really kicking them in the butt, right? But sometimes you have to bring up old stories, don't you? Hey, do you remember when you did this and you did that and it worked out? Hey, do you remember when you prayed to God and this happened and it worked, right? You start bringing up past successes. Hey, do you remember when you told me that I shouldn't do this, and when I did it, it actually didn't work, and then you helped me to invest in this better, and then I ended up getting more money out of this project, right? You help them to remember, hey, it's okay that some things didn't work, but do you remember these? I still believe you're capable of those same successes. Correct? The account of David and Goliath presents a classic example of how past successes can help somebody. So we all remember David and Goliath, 9-foot giant. He taunted them for 40 days. But David comes out, just a lonely shepherd, to deliver food. He sees the giant. And when he sees the giant, he goes up to Saul. And Saul says to him, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine. You are only a boy, and he has been fighting men since he was young." But David says to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came, I carried off a sheep from the flock, and I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from his mouth. And when it turned on me, I seized it by his hair, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has both killed the lion and the bear. The Lord who delivered me from these will also deliver the hand of this Philistine." Isn't that awesome? So what did he do? He brought up a past success about how the Lord kept him, right, safe, and how the Lord was there for him when he had to fight off the lion and the bear from the sheep. So in the success of this story, what does Saul do? Go ahead, right? He tries to give him armor at first, but David doesn't accept the armor. This is what he does instead. He grabs his sling and his stone, and he takes the thing that he's been using the most, that has had success, right, in getting rid of the lion and the bear, and is like, look, this is what I know. This is what I'm familiar with. This is what succeeded. God will do it again, right? Like, isn't that a wonderful story? Like, a lot of people know David and Goliath. It's a common story in the Bible that every child is taught in Sunday school. If you haven't been to Sunday school and whatnot, and you weren't taught that as a kid in Sunday school, your teacher is not teaching you very well, in my opinion, because David and Goliath is a wonderful example of courage with God, right? But this is also a good example for past success as well. And I love this because not everyone has the natural ability to recognize past successes and draw confidence from that. But just like David drew from his past success to give confidence, right? He showed Saul, look, I can do this. And Saul said, go for it. And then what happens? He strikes Goliath down with just one stone and a sling. Isn't that crazy to think, though? Like, not many people are going to have the confidence to stand up to their bully. Wherever, like if you hear all kinds of stories and childhood memory, even at work too, like people going through high school and work and whatnot, it happens everywhere. Bullying it happens anywhere. You can't just say it only happens in high school. It happens when you're an adult as well, when you're working a job or whatever. There's someone that's going to bully you. Someone's not going to be nice. It happens. But you have to look past that and not worry about that. Just remember the confidence that God's given you from the past, successes that you have, and just remember that it's okay. You know what I mean? Go for it. When you're being bullied, don't be put down. When you're being discouraged, don't let that put you down. You've succeeded before, you can succeed again. The next thing he says, instill confidence when they fail. When you have encouraged people and put your faith in them, they begin to believe that they can succeed. And the first time or two that they fail and they feel, and they will fail, they always have two choices, right? You either give in or you go on. You either give in or you go on. Or you could also say you either give up or you continue, right? There's lots of different ways you could phrase that. You either stop doing it or you continue to go on. You either give up or you fail. There's all this different stuff. When you give up and you fail, that's, it's not good. But if you give up and fail, then you never get to actually succeed. But if you give up and fail, and you continue to give up and fail, of course, things are going to keep feeling like you're going to give up and fail. You're never going to step into a further confidence in yourself. But if you fail and you don't give up, just like we talked about how last week, there are lots of scientists that have created so many things. The only way you can succeed in science is by what? Failing, right? If anyone out there knows what it's like to fail until they've created and completed a project, it's scientists. You could ask anyone in any field of science, hey, how many times did it take you to do this thing until you finally succeeded? Oh, hundreds. Sometimes people will say thousands. And then you got those cocky guys that are like, oh, it only took me 5 tries. But, there's some people are just smarter than others, and you can't discourage that. You encourage them, And when they succeed sooner, encourage them. Don't put them down and be like, oh, stop being a smart aleck. Because that happens, doesn't it? Some people, they do succeed fast, and they're smart, and they know what they're doing. But you put them down and be like, well, you're just kind of being a smart aleck, or quit rubbing it in everyone's face. And then they feel like, oh, maybe trying to be smart's a bad thing. And you put them down. But no, don't do that. Like we talked about, you emphasize on that strength. Emphasize on that strength, right? Like, hey, we're glad that you didn't fail so much. That's awesome. The strengths that you have are wonderful. Can you do this for us too, right? When you're a leader, you find more stuff for them to do because they're able to complete the subject they have in the field that they're doing or whatever it might be, and you encourage them to continue, right? Emphasize on that man's strength. If they are smarter than others, don't put them down for that kind of thing. Because some people are going to be more resilient and willing to stay in order to succeed, even when they don't see immediate progress, right? But others aren't that determined, and some will collapse the moment something goes wrong. And one of the ways that you can encourage and build confidence in others is to tell them about your past troubles and traumas and stories. That's what we do. Speakers, they do what? They tell stories. They help people understand. They emphasize on different things of their past or things that, aren't going great. Like, hey, look, I've had stuff like this too. Not everyone can relate to everyone on certain things. Not everyone can. But you can always share a story of how you felt encouraged on something that happened in your life. And even if it's not what they're going through or the troubles that they're experiencing, your story can still encourage them to build up on their story, right? Sometimes they won't realize that you've also had your fair share of failure. So when they see that you have failed and still managed to succeed, what do you think that's going to do in them? It's going to make them feel encouraged. Hey, you know what? I see what you're saying. I see that you didn't succeed in what you were doing. I see sometimes you failed. I realize this, right? Thank you, right? More oftentimes than not, when you're capable of sharing a story and showing by example, you will believe and initiate confidence in someone by being able to share your past failures. Because what happened? Your past failures did what? They turned into success. Babe Ruth, the baseball player, if you don't know who he is, says, never let the fear of striking out get in the way. And I think that's cool, right? Because that is something that all baseball players fear, right? Well, what if I don't swing? What if I don't see the ball coming in time? What if I swing too soon, too late, right? The thought process when playing, and I was talking to a friend the other day about baseball, actually. It was kind of interesting. He was talking about me about how baseball is the most boring sport out there, is what he thought. And I told him, that's just your personal opinion. Obviously, millions of others disagree. I was like, but that's your own personal opinion. But I told him, I was like, you also have to realize, though, you may think that because you think there's not much going into baseball. I was like, but have you ever played baseball? And he said, no. I was like, of course. I was like, I have. I was like, I'll let you know what happens when you're playing baseball. I was like, you're not just doing nothing. These people are building strength in their arms. They're running. They're working out. They're staying in shape. They're trying to stay healthy, right? They think about, how can I swing better? How can I swing faster? How could I swing harder? How could I throw faster? How can I pitch better? How can I catch the ball better, right? Baseball players aren't going to sit there and they aren't just leisurely doing nothing. There's effort put into the sport that they put into. There's effort put into what they have to do. Every time the batter is up to bat, he is thinking in every possible way, okay, how's he going to pitch it? Where's it going to go? How low? How fast? How slow? Is it going to curve? Is it going to go down? What's going to happen, right? No matter what's going on in their brains, they know in order to swing and to not strike out and to hit that ball, they have to have full confidence behind their swing, right? I'm going to hit this ball, right? I'm going to hit the ball. You must not have fear in the face of failure. If you have fear in the face of failure, you will never succeed. Next thing, experience some wins together. So it's not enough just knowing failure is a part of moving on. You also need to be able to motivate them to succeed, but also believe that they can win. Winning is motivation. Novelist David Ambrose says, if you have the will to win, you have achieved half your success. If you don't, you have achieved half of your failure. I read this, and this gave me I kind of looked at it differently. You know, like the like glass half full or half empty scenario that everyone talks about sometimes. Like, oh, well, I see the glass is half empty. Well, I see the glass is half full. It's the same perspective. If you believe in one, it's going to be that one, right? But if you believe in the other, it's going to be that other. If I were to tell you guys, well, I actually have this cup of water, I think it's half empty. But you're going to tell me, well, I believe it's half full, right? We both have that matter of our own perspective of what we believe the glass is. And it's the same thing in this. If you have the will and believe that you will win, you will already achieve half of the success you'll need. But if I only believe in that I'm not, you're only going to fail, or you're going to have at least half the failure immediately, like he says. So going alongside others and being there for them and the process of their victory, you will also be able to experience wins together, right? If they're succeeding, but you're there to encourage them throughout that success, they're not the only one winning, you are as well, because what are you doing? You also believe in them. You're there for them through their success. You're there for them through these wins. To help people believe that they can achieve victory, put them in a position to experience sometimes the small successes first. Encourage them to perform tasks or take on responsibilities so you know that they can handle and do it well. And in time, their confidence grows, and then what can you do? Put on the more difficult challenges, right? If you give them small things to succeed with first, small tasks, and they do well, then challenge them with something harder, right? Because now you can have faith that they can do better. Usually, if you get the small successes done, right? The person that you gave the task to, who got the small task done first, will have the encouragement to complete whatever comes next, right? Like, hey, I saw you've been doing this, and I saw you've been doing that, and you've been doing very well with all these small things. How would you like to take on a harder task? Really? You trust me enough to take on this harder task? Of course, right? You've been succeeding in the small things, and I love that. So I want to give you something harder to work on. Do you know the confidence boost that happens in that? I can't tell you how many times I did a lot of small projects when I first started off at the last job that I had, before I started working for the ministry full time and whatnot, that when I had no idea what I was doing whatsoever, I had no idea what I was doing at this job. They gave me small things to figure out first, and I was trying to figure them out and everything, and I was like kind of discouraged. But throughout my discouragement, I continued to press on and try to figure out what could I do to make things better, easier, less complicated, faster. And when I started figuring out these things, like, hey, you're doing awesome. Would you want to take on more? Well, I don't know if I want to take on more. I'm not making enough money to do even more. Well, we'll give you more money if you do more. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I'll do more. So I did more. And when I did more, they upped my pay more because I was doing good with the harder tasks. And then when I started doing those tasks and I was doing more stuff and started doing better on those, hey, we want you to stay. We like you so much. Here's more. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. So I started doing more stuff. Stayed later sometimes for work. Even drove to another state a few times to do stuff for them when I was working that job, because they saw in the small successes that I had, they could trust me with the harder difficulties. So when I started taking on the harder tasks, and they saw the successes in the harder tasks, what happened? I got more money. They saw that I was capable, and they gave me more to do. because they knew they could trust me, right? That's what you want to be able to do. In the small successes, you will win with that person together if you're there to encourage them, to uplift them, and to make them feel like what they're doing is succeeding. Next thing, visualize their future success. He talks about an experiment where they performed on rats and whatnot in different circumstances, where scientists dropped a rat into a jar of water that had been placed in total darkness, and they talked another one where they timed how long the animal would continue swimming before it gave up and allowed itself to drown, and they found that rat lasted 3 minutes. But then they dropped the rat into the same kind of jar, but instead they placed it in total darkness. They allowed one little ray, just one ray of light to shine into it. And under those circumstances, the rat swam for 36 hours. One rat in total darkness gave up in 3 minutes. The other rat just saw a sliver of light and would not give up swimming for 36 hours. That's 700 times longer than the one in the dark, just because he could see a little bit of hope. That little bit of hope. I thought this experiment is so interesting. I had to look it up online too, because I was like, when I read this portion of the book, I was like, that's a real project? Now, obviously, scientists try all kinds of things, we know that. But I just had to see for myself. And when I looked into it, I realized this rat kept swimming toward the light and would go in circles and come back and kept swimming and come back because it saw it. It saw, hey, there's hope. Maybe I can get out of this jar. Maybe there's a way, right? Maybe there's something there. So he continued. And it's true. He talks about if that is true of laboratory animals, you have to think how strong the effect of visualization can be on people. This is just an animal. This animal did not give up for 36 hours. People have gone 40 days without food, 4 days without water, 4 minutes without air, and only 4 seconds without hope. Each time you cast a vision for others and paint a picture of their future success, you build them up, motivate them, and give them reasons to keep going, right? When people are at their lowest, help them to find a little light, help them to find a little hope, help them to visualize the fact that they can succeed. Just like that rat who saw that little tiny ray of hope and lasted longer than the other one, us as humans are more capable of having higher reasoning, a better visualization, a better understanding of what it is that we can do to succeed. Don't be like the rat in the dark. Don't let others be like the rat in the dark. Show them love. Love on them like God loves on them. Don't give up on them, right? There are times that, yes, some friends just don't deserve to be, sometimes you have to drop some friends because they're very bad in your life. But don't lose hope with them. Pray for them. Continue to encourage them if they do reach out. You don't have to be in someone's life to love on them. You don't have to be in someone's life to pray for them, There are plenty of people around the world, they're not involved in my life, but I still pray. I pray that God makes a difference in their lives. I pray that we can make a difference in their lives. I pray that when we go around the world and when we go to where we're going to be going soon, Fiji and everywhere else, what Calvin's doing in South Africa right now, doing the truck ministry stuff, preaching to kids, telling them, preaching the gospel. I always pray it makes a difference. And the last thing is expect a new level of living. He mentions that a German statesman named Konrad Adenauer, I might have butchered the name, he says, we all live under the same sky, but we don't all have the same horizon. So you have to make it your goal to help others see beyond today and their current circumstances and dream big dreams. And when you put your faith in people, you help them expand their horizon. Putting your faith in others and taking a chance, but the reward involves taking a chance, but the rewards outweigh the risks. Robert Louis Stevenson said, to be what we are and to become what we are capable of becoming is only the end of life. So when you put your faith in others, you help them reach their potential. You become an important relationship in their lives, and they are important in yours as well. So yeah. So I just want to pray. Lord, thank you for this morning, for everyone that's watching. I just want to be able to encourage everyone, just like we mentioned in this belief system and how we talked about emphasizing everyone's strength, instilling confidence, and understanding others. I just want to pray that as we continue in this series like we've been doing, that we continue to encourage, we continue to emphasize on each other, we continue to grow in understanding and build each other up in God, but not just in God, in our relationship as well, so that we can become stronger, so we become more confident, so that even in failure that we realize that there can be success. God, we just want to pray that as we're doing all this, we're winning together, not failing. In the name of Jesus, amen. Yeah. My mom's putting the scan to give up. We just want to encourage you guys to go ahead and give this morning into what we're doing. We're going to be traveling soon, the next couple weeks, to Bolivia first? Or where are we going first? Hello? Fiji first. Oh, Fiji first. Never mind. We're going to Fiji first. But yeah, I just want to encourage you to give into that. We're going to be going to Fiji first. That's coming up soon. It's going to be an awesome trip. We're hoping to make a big difference. And then after that, Bolivia, I think. But yeah, we love you guys. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed morning. Oh, and tune in 30 minutes for Apostle Warren to speak. So yeah, amen.